Uh, Kabir, first and foremost, welcome.
Thank you.
And which hat do you like to wear? Because you wear so many hats. Cinematographer, director, you do OTT, you do films, you're a writer. Which?
I think principally my hat is that of a storyteller. And
Okay.
all those come under that. So,
Okay.
anything that allows me to tell stories effectively, I'll wear that hat.
In different formats.
In different formats. Though, I mean, having said that, mostly I think I've sort of been, if I look at my filmography, it's been feature films and documentaries. But yes, there has been one very big OTT series that I did in the sort of initial days of when the OTT came here, The Forgotten Army. And I really enjoyed that.
But that was based on documentary you
That was
made
actually,
earlier.
absolutely, you're right. That was actually The Forgotten Army. For those who haven't seen it, is the story of the Azad Hind Fauj. And I had a very fascinating experience as a documentary filmmaker. It was in fact one of my first major documentaries. I was very young. I was 25 years old, and I got an opportunity to make a film where we basically drove from Singapore all the way back to Delhi, and that was the route that Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's Azad Hind Fauj had taken when they went into battle against the British for our independence, and had the huge privilege of having two veterans of that army, Captain Lakshmi Sehgal and Colonel Gurbakh Singh Dhillon, and they were 85 years old at that point in time. And I took them back, and for the first time ever since World War II, we retraced the route of the Azad Hind Fauj, making the documentary called The Forgotten Army, which subsequently then got made into the series.
Right. So how easy or how difficult and what is the process of turning a documentary into a web series? Do you revisit it and then make changes
So
and then rewrite it?
the advantage of turning a documentary into a series or a film is that you've already done the research. So if it's a true story, the backbone of that story is going to be the research. And in terms of the series, the documentary Forgotten Army, already so much of research had gone. I'd got living research, right? I'd had the veterans of that army go back with me to these places and actually tell me stories standing on those locations. There were such fascinating things that happened with us where they rediscovered, because the Azad Hind Fauj in the later part of the war had been reduced to a guerrilla army. So they were fighting in the jungles, they were fighting in the caves. So imagine me taking Gurbakh Singh Dhillon back to Burma after 55 years, and we reached one place where he said that, we had been like reduced to a guerrilla outfit, so we used to operate out of a cave in the jungle. And he said that cave was like a temple for us, and I want to find that temple, that cave, because we had placed a small statue of Buddha in that cave, and we used to imagine that this will protect us. And he wanted to find it. And I said, Burmese tropical jungles are the thickest jungles in the world. 55 years later, how are you going to find it? And he insisted he would get up at 5 in the morning. And for 4 days, we went in the jungles. He was trying to find, some cues.
Search of Buddha.
In search of that cave. And on the 4th day, I remember telling him, Dhillon Sahab, we have to move on. We can't keep, being here. And in the second half of the 4th day, we found that cave.
Wow.
Can you imagine,
55 years.
after 55 years, at the age of 85, he found that cave. There was a lot of, bushes and stuff. He cleaned that. It was completely dark inside. And he was so excited. He said, can somebody bring candles? Can somebody bring matches? And we brought candles. He went inside that cave, into that deep cave, and the statue of Buddha was there. That little statue of
And
Buddha.
did you capture that in your documentary?
Yes, that's in the documentaries, and of course, subsequently, I used it in the series also. But there were moments like this, which was unbelievable. That's the magic of documentaries.
Which is not there on paper. You
Which
just
is not, you
discover
can't.
it on the way.
That's the magic of documentaries, right? You can prepare all you want, you can do your research, but magic unfolds in front of your camera.
And yet you went from there to web series and to
Yes.
feature films,
Yes.
where everything is planned and on
Everything
paper.
is planned. You try and control everything. But yeah, I mean, see that the thrill of the two formats is completely different. And I feel some stories are better told in the documentary format, some stories are better told in the feature format. But for me, the transition really was at a time when I was very successfully doing documentaries, but the problem was that it was mostly for international networks. See, this is a time when for your generation, you know, it might be hard to believe, but there was a time when you didn't have YouTube, when you didn't have the OTTs, and that's the time when I was making documentaries. And so it was actually the frustration of not finding an audience in my country. I was making international documentaries which had takers in channels all over the world, but there was no channel in India. And for a communicator, you know, it's very frustrating if you can't communicate with your audience. And there's a very interesting actually incident that took place with me. And that's the moment I go back saying, okay, that's the moment I decided I need to shift from documentaries to Bollywood, if you like to call it that, because I realized that that's the most powerful medium in our country, and actually it saved my life that day. And it happened with me. If you want to, it's a story actually I've told before, but for those who haven't heard it,
Tell us briefly.
it's
Yes.
actually in Afghanistan in 2001, post 9/11, and I was going into Afghanistan to make a documentary on a country sort of emerging from the shadows of the Taliban. And I remember we tried to, because we from India, we couldn't go the usual route, which is through Pakistan and Peshawar. So we had to fly to Uzbekistan, drive to Tajikistan, and try and come down into Afghanistan. And for 14 days, we tried to get into Afghanistan, and everything would fail. Like we would go drive through the mountains, and there would be avalanches and landslides that was push us back. There was a helicopter that's supposed to take us through, and a day before we were supposed to board that helicopter, it crashed in the mountains. So everything we tried was not possible. And finally, on the 14th day, I remember we said, okay, let's make one last ditch attempt and try and go. So we went to the air base, and we saw this Russian military helicopter being loaded with medicines. So we and my partner at that point in time, who was making the documentary with me, Rajan Kapoor, we took the Russian military helicopter pilot to the side and did something that us Indians are very good at. We like gave him a little incentive in terms of a few dollars, that take these dollars and take us to Kabul in this helicopter. And he agreed. We gave him a lot of money. We gave him $2,000, and he put us in the helicopter, took off, and it's literally just a 40-minute helicopter ride through the Hindu Kush mountains from Tajikistan to Kabul. And as we were like coming closer to Kabul, he suddenly brings the helicopter down in the middle of nowhere. There's like just mountains and snow all over the place, and he brings it down, hovering about 20 feet above the air, and he says, "Jump." I said, "What the hell? We've given you $2,000. The least you can do is, take us to the airport." He says, "No, because you're not military personnel. I can't take you there." And I said, "Okay, put the helicopter down. We'll get off." He says, "No, if I take it down, some technical jargon about it takes at least 20 minutes to reboot this helicopter, and I'll be off the radar, and I can't do that." So we had to hang from that helicopter and jump, and the helicopter goes away, flies away, and we're in the middle of nowhere. There's just mountains, 360 degrees, snow. And I see one man, one big mujahideen with a gun coming towards us, looking very angry because he had just seen these two guys jump off a military helicopter. And I thought, this is the way my end is written. I thought I'm going to get shot somewhere in the mountains here. Nobody knows we were in that helicopter. Nobody will ever know where we are. And all I knew is that they have a lot of, the Mujahideen at that point in time had a lot of warmth for Indians, because we had helped them in their fight against the Taliban. And as he was coming close by, I kept saying, "Hindustan, Hindustan." And this guy with his Kalashnikov suddenly stopped, heard the fact that I was saying Hindustan, and he smiled and started singing, "Mere sapno ki rani kab aayegi tu." That's the day I realized the power of our film industry and the fact that it's the most powerful medium in our country and across. And that day I decided,
And that's
if I
how
survive
Kabul
this trip,
Express came
that's
about.
Kabul
Kabul
Express.
Express
And
came
this scene is
about.
actually in Kabul Express, though I changed the song because strangely, when I wrote the script, a lot of my friends wrote it and said, "What a ridiculous scene this is. Nobody's going to believe this." So I changed it. I shouldn't have. But yeah, that's how my film journey began.
Okay. And that gave you a taste for geopolitical dramas, isn't it?
So it's not just Afghanistan. See, I had the great fortune immediately after finishing film school of working extensively with a very senior journalist called Saeed Naqvi. Saeed Naqvi was somebody who was always very obsessed with reporting international news from an Indian perspective, because in those days international news only came to us from BBC and CNN. And he said, they don't speak about us. They speak about an American or a Western perspective. And so he would travel the world. And I was very young when I joined him. I was 21 or 22 when I joined him. And as a camera person, which really helped because, you know, having a technical knowledge really helps you. I joined his thing. And the next 5 years, we traveled to about 80 countries. You know, reporting from there about international news, but with an Indian perspective. And that training is what gave me my taste for geopolitics, for understanding politics, for understanding how perspectives are different. If you see my first three films, it's all about perspective. It's about the story of the gap between the story that was told to us and the story that should have been told to us. And therefore, I continue to do films which have a certain, you know, political backdrop, a social context, a historical context. I guess that comes from the training that I got in those 5 years with
It's
Saeed.
apparent in all your films.
It is,
Yeah,
it is.
it is.
It doesn't need to be a political story. Even in a 83, you will see that. Even in a Chandu Champion, you will see that
That's
that
right.
backdrop
Yes,
of the
yes.
politics.
So after 83 and Chandu Champion, which were real life stories, have you developed a taste for that and any more coming up?
So actually, yeah, there have been, you know, in my filmography, a lot of the films have been based on true stories. Almost every, because, you know, documentaries became my raw material, so there was so much of material I used to draw from. What I experienced in Afghanistan became Kabul Express. New York, my film New York is based from true life stories. I was in the US when 9/11 happened. I experienced a lot of that, put that in New York. Elements of Tiger are based on true stories and real people. So almost every film, 83 of course, and Chandu Chamita, absolutely real. Forgotten Army is absolutely real. So I think I've always had a fascination with true stories, because I feel they can be fascinating stories to tell. And important stories to tell, because, you know, the thrill of being able to reintroduce Murlikant Petkar to the world through Chandu Champion was something that I thought it was criminal if we as a country don't know a person who achieved so much for our country.
The Murlikant Petkar is still alive. He's around.
Murlikant Petkar
Yeah.
is still alive, and
And he came and saw your film
he
as
came
well.
and saw the film.
Yeah.
And not only that, I mean, so happy that literally his life has changed, because my film, for those who have seen the film, it begins with an old man going to a police station to file a complaint against the President of India because they had not given him the Arjuna Award. And 6 months after the film was released, Kartik Aaryan and I was sitting in the Rashtrapati Bhavan clapping, seeing the President of India giving him the Lifetime Arjuna Award. And, you know, that's how lives
Wow.
change.
See, and that's the impact of your film
I
again.
mean, yeah, it because it reintroduced him to the country. I remember the army, the chief of army staff, they watched the film with him, and a very senior army officer came and said, you know, off the record, he said, I want to tell you that we are feeling ashamed of ourselves, that we didn't recognize this soldier for what he
Yeah.
had contributed.
That's right.
So that's a, you know, as a storyteller, that really is the truest and the greatest validation for us.
So, any more coming up now? Web series or
So
real life
no, I mean,
stories?
as of now, I'm concentrating on films. But yes, there are a certain number of subjects that we're developing for web series also. Because as I said, I think ultimately the story dictates, you know, what format you have to tell it in. So yeah, there's a little bit of both.
Would you like to tell us any of your future projects?
Unfortunately, one is very close to starting shoot, and we haven't announced it officially as yet, so I can't
So,
really.
you can tell us.
I wish I could. They're still waiting for a couple of things to fall together, because there's some very exciting international talent getting attached to it. So I'll probably announce it once everything is in place.
Okay, thank you so much. And we will open the floor to a couple of
Yes.
questions. One or two. Anybody with a question? Yes? The lady there and then the
That boy is there.
gentleman at the back.
Hi, sir. My name is
Hi.
Kiana.
Hi.
I'm from KC College. So, what was the element of Bajrangi Bhaijaan? Because that made you want to make such a film, because it's a very, very sweet tale and it connects to all age groups. So, what was that one element that gave you the idea to make that film?
So the story came to me like literally a 2 minute story narrated to me by Mr. Vijendra Prasad. Um, and who also drew from reality from a newspaper article about a girl from Pakistan who had come and was given treatment by Indian doctors, and they refused to take payment for the treatment given to her. And then when I started developing it, I drew a lot from my growing up years in Delhi. The whole sort of backdrop of Chandni Chowk is a place which I've experienced, I've seen. And for me, it was very important to show that India that I had grown up in, to show how the two communities actually lived seamlessly with each other. And through Bajrangi's views, which begin a little sort of radicalized and not being warm to the other communities, how the travel makes him realize that his ideology is not correct, and ultimately human beings are the same, whether they are on the different communities within India, which is what the first half is all about, or whether they are across the borders. At the end of the day, human beings remain the same. It's the politics that makes the creates the problems. It's the politics of countries that create problems between people. But inherently, when you come down to the basic humanity, everyone is the same. The basic values remain the same. Yes.
Hi, sir. My name is
Hi.
Veer. Sir, I'm a big fan of yours.
Thank
Bajrangi
you.
Bhaijaan is one of my favorite films.
Thank you.
So my question is like, we are film students here. So as aspiring filmmakers and future storytellers, most of us don't come from a film background. So how do we get a chance in the film industry, or how can we tell our stories like on the big screen?
That's a very good question, because I know there's just so much of chatter these days about if you're not from a film industry background, if you're not from a film family, how do you make a grade? So let me tell you, m- I have when I landed in Bombay with a dream of making films, I didn't know a single person in the Bombay film industry, not one. So I'm a living example of the fact that if you have a dream and you have a story and you have the talent, you will break down the barriers. You will make the gates open and get in. So yes, I'm not at all taking away from the fact that if you're from a film family, if you know people, if your parents have been in the film industry, you have a great advantage. You have the access to people. It doesn't take a whole year to just get one appointment to a producer. Your parents can make a phone call and you can get that appointment. But after that, it becomes a level playing field. So do not believe too much in this chatter about nepotism, and never get defeatist about the fact that अरे यार हम किसी को जानते नहीं तो कुछ नहीं होगा हमारा. Your stories will open up doors for you. For me, that's what happened. I knew nobody. I wrote a story, and I wrote a story at a time when those kind of stories were not really being made. Right? Kabul Express is a very real, gritty story without the usual 6 songs and a love story thrown into it. But everywhere I went, one by one, the word of mouth kept spreading that there's a very interesting story doing the rounds. There's an interesting storyteller, and people would reach out and say, "Okay, meet me," and I would meet, and it was very difficult. People would love the story, but they would not be ready to, put their money where their mouth was. They would give all kinds of ज्ञान कि आप इस हीरो को ले लो, उस हीरो को ले लो तो हम पिक्चर बना देंगे, all for wrong reasons, not because of the story. And unknown to me, a friend of mine had given my story to Aditya Chopra of Yashraj Films. And because at that time, Adi was looking for stories that were outside of his comfort zone. And out of the blue, I got a call saying, Aditya Chopra wants to meet you. And I said, यार ये कौन बकवास कर रहा है? I thought कि my wife was in MTV in those days. Minnie was a MTV VJ, और उस ज़माने में एक बहुत popular show होता था MTV पे called बकरा. So I thought ये सब जानते हैं my whole struggle for a whole year, and they're doing a bakra on me. And because anyway at that point in अभी तो आप लोगों ने वो Netflix show देख लिया जिसमें आदित्य चोपड़ा आए हैं. उससे पहले तो people used to think there's a joke in Yashraj that Adi doesn't exist. It's just been created by Yash Chopra to scare people. And but somehow when I was speaking to this lady, I thought ki it seemed serious. I said, okay, kab aana hai? And I went, half expecting Cyrus Brocha to jump out with a bakra from the gate, but the gate opened. I went in, and I remember being, sent up to the room where Adi was, and I so distinctly remember that visual of opening the door. Adi was standing near the window. He was cleaning his glasses with his shirt, and he turned around and said, Kabir, I've read your script and it moves really well, and when can we start? And that's it. It suddenly happened. And what opened the door for me is the power of the story. So you have to believe that your story will open up doors. Don't get it's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough, and please don't believe that this is an easy industry. But your passion for storytelling, your love for storytelling is what will keep you going. It's been now close to 20 years for me. मुझे लगता है मैंने आज तक जिंदगी में एक दिन काम नहीं किया है. I'm only doing what I love doing. I'm following my passion. I'm following my dream. And strangely, people are paying me a lot of money to do that. So, believe in it. The thrill of being able to tell a story is something that will be a great high. Don't get defeatist, but be realistic. I meet a lot of people saying, "So 100 लोगों को story पढ़ा दिया, इनको समझ में नहीं आता है." अगर 100 लोगों ने पढ़ी story उनको अच्छी नहीं लग रही, then smell the coffee. The story. Don't make it. Write another one. That doesn't work, write another one. And please do not give up what you're doing at that point in time in life to say कि आज से मैं सिर्फ कहानी लिखूंगा और कुछ नहीं करूंगा. It lead to frustration. Remember, always keep a job on the side. I did that. I never left my job as like making documentaries or a freelance camera person, because I knew the day I'd stop working, the financial pressure will fall on me, and then I'll end up doing anything, any rubbish. So that's a very important thing. Believe in yourself, but also have the ability to see yourself in the mirror and have a reality check.
Excellent.